Hello and welcome everyone, all the aspirants and everyone who is joining me today to learn about grammar. My name is Miss Electoli, Faculty of English at Edufy, and today we're going to be discussing the topic of tenses. Without any further ado, let's move on to the topic. Tenses are basically the words that denotes the time of an action. When an action is performed and the word discusses or tells us about the time of the action, it is understood as tenses. Now, the first and foremost form of the tense is called the present tense. What is a present tense? A present tense is basically words that describes the actions that are currently happening or a habitual action or even general truths. So present tense will give us all these three factors in a sentence when an action is happening in the present form. So under present tense, we have four different forms. And what are they? They are known as the simple present tense, present continuous tense, present perfect tense, and present perfect continuous tense. So through this class, we will be learning in detail how to identify the tenses, that is the various forms of the present tense. First is simple present tense. Now, when we look at simple present tense, the basics of identifying a present tense is when we look at the structure. And what is the structure? The structure is telling us about the components of a sentence. What is the components of a sentence? If a sentence is affirmative, we may have a subject plus the base verb and the subject or the object in the sentence. Now, when we have this type of sentences, we call it as affirmative sentence. Affirmative sentence means any type of statements that are positive in nature. And we see that the base verb is used in this type of sentences. When we see this, we will identify them as the simple present tense. If we look at the second structure, subject plus do or does plus the word not along with the base verb will be understood as a simple present tense, but in the negative connotation. Next, we have if we have a question, a statement that is a question. How do we identify if it is a simple present tense? By looking at the structure again. If it has the auxiliary verb do or does plus the subject plus the base verb. So one thing remains constant within all of these structures is the subject and the base verb. The auxiliary verbs keeps on changing according to the types of sentences, right? But the subject and the base verb remains the same in all of these sentences, and that is how we are able to identify that as a simple present tense. If we look at the examples, we can see this one. The first sentence, she works at a hospital. She is the subject, works is a base verb, right? So base verb along with the object, what do we see? We see a simple present tense. This is an affirmative sentence, a positive statement saying that she works somewhere, right? So this is a affirmative sentence. Then we have they do not play football. Here we have the subject as they. Then we have do not. This is a negative statement. Earlier on, when we looked at the structure, we see that the subject is there along with the auxiliary verb do or does not along with the base verb. What is this? A simple present tense sentence. Next, if I have to use a simple present tense to ask a question, how do I do it? I write the auxiliary verb do first. Do you like coffee? Right? So do you like is the base verb, and that is how we understand that is a simple present tense. Now we also have to look at the usage of simple present tense. When do we use a simple present tense in any type of format or any type of sentences? We use a simple present tense, we want to talk about general truths or facts. Any type of universally accepted truths or facts will be understood as a simple present tense. For example, water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. What is it? It is a simple truth, a fact, right? So it cannot change whether you bring it in the past tense or whether you bring it in the future tense. A fact remains a fact. So therefore, they will always be considered as being in the form of a simple present tense. If I say the sun rises in the east, same thing, it's a fact, right? So that is also what? A general truth also considered a simple present tense. The second point is when we want to talk about habits or routines. If somebody is performing an action regularly on a daily basis without any kind of change to those actions, it will be understood as a habit. And when you are writing a sentence denoting a habit or a ritual or routine, it is understood as simple present tense. Example, he goes to school every day. Where does he go? He goes to school every day. So it's a routine that happens gradually, all the time, regularly, right? So it will be understood as a simple present tense as well. Next one is when we also have a scheduled future events. Whenever some kind of future event is supposed to happen, and it is scheduled to happen, then we also consider them as simple present tense. Now, a lot of people will confuse this as somewhat of a future tense, and what is the difference between that, right? So if you're very confused about that, one thing you can focus on is the structure again. The train is the subject along with the verb that is in the base form, which is leaves. So it is the basic structure of an affirmative sentence, subject plus base verb, right? So if you're confused whether this is a future or a present tense, you can look at the structure, and through the structure you will know that this is a simple present tense. Next, we have instructions or directions. When we have sentences that gives us instructions or directions, you will consider them as a simple present tense as well. So with this, we understand and we have a clue about what simple present tense is. Let's move on to the next form of present tense, and that is the present continuous tense, also known as present progressive tense. Progressive or continuous, they talks about progressive actions, actions that do not stop, but it is still continuing. And we can look at the structure here. Affirmative sentences of present continuous tense will have the subject plus these three auxiliary verbs. If you focus on this, you will see this: am, is, or are. These three auxiliary verbs will be there when we are talking about a present continuous tense, along with the verb in what form? Ing form. Why? Because it is continuing. Playing, singing, dancing, watching, all these action words are continuous words. So therefore, whenever I say present continuous tense, it will come along with the subject plus is, am, or are plus the verb in ing form. Next, if we have a negative sentence, it's very simple. Same again, subject, same auxiliary verbs. The main difference is that since it's negative, there will be a negative word not. And then it will be followed by the verb in ing form. Again, if it is a question, what if the statement is a question? You will have the auxiliary verbs at the beginning of the sentence, such as am, is, or are, plus the subject and the verb in ing form. Now, if you're finding it a little bit complicated, when you look at the examples, it's very simple. You look here, she is reading a book. She is the subject with the auxiliary verb is. Why is it is and not are? Because it's very simple. This one is a singular subject, so therefore the verb also becomes singular. And here we see that she is reading. Reading is a verb in the ing form. We have the combination of the subject plus the auxiliary verb is plus the verb in ing form. So what will it be? Present continuous tense. Next, we are not watching TV. Same thing. We have we, subject, are is written because subject is plural, verb will also become plural. Then we have the negative word not plus the verb in ing form. So this is a negative sentence talking about a present continuous tense. Similarly, when you look into the third statement, that is the third example, you see a question being asked with what? The auxiliary verb at the beginning with the subject and the verb in ing form, showing us a present continuous tense. Now, if you're unable to understand this again, we can also look at the definition, that is when or how do we use a present continuous tense. It is when the actions are happening now, in the present, continuing. He is studying right now. This statement is what? We have a subject plus is plus verb in ing form. So structurally, this is a present continuous tense. And also, it talks about an action that is happening. continuing. So therefore, this is a present continuous tense. Then we also use a present continuous tense when we talk about temporary actions. What do I mean when I say temporary actions? Some actions are not permanent. They are not performed permanently. They're performed as a way of saying that this has happened, but it is still happening, but maybe it won't happen later on, right? So for example, I'm staying with a friend this week. If I say this is a temporary action of I. I'm staying with a friend this week. So in the coming week, maybe I won't be staying with my friend. So this is a temporary action, right? We can see this through the present continuous tense as well. The third and final one is planned near future. When I have something planned in the coming near future, not in the farther future, but in the near future. So you can take a look at this example. We are meeting them tomorrow. A future action to be performed in the later period, right? So it is something that is planned for something in the near future. We are meeting them tomorrow. If these three are not very clear to you, you can again look at the structure of these three sentences. What do we find? Subject plus are plus verb in ing form. Simple. This is a present continuous tense. We have subject plus I is subject. M has been written in the short form, but as we know, it's written here, right? So, I am staying with a friend. Staying is the verb in ing form, so this becomes a present continuous tense. With this, we're done with present continuous tense and we move on to present perfect tense. What is the present perfect tense? We will look at the structure first. When we have the subject plus has or have plus past participle verb. Now here the verb form changes. They're not base verb, they're not verb in ing form anymore. They are past participle form of the verb. Now you will find that perfect tense in all the different forms, that is past and future, you will find that the verbs are in the past participle form. Please remember that. Next, if we look at the structure of a negative statement, we have subject, have, has, plus not, plus past participle. It's very simple. If you look at that very example, we see this. She is the subject, has been written here, auxiliary verb has, plus the word not to denote a negative statement. And the verb is in what form? Past participle form. It's not visits, it's not visiting, it is visited. But since we have the present auxiliary verb, so we will consider this as a present perfect continuous tense. Take a look at this third sentence. Have you seen this movie? Have is written here at the beginning, asking the subject you, and seen is the past participle form of the verb again. So this is present perfect tense. If we look at the usage as we continue on, we see that actions that have happened at a specific time in the past with relevance to the present. That means there is a connection of the past tense, of the past action with the present. Whenever we see that type of connection, we say that this is a present perfect tense. Okay, that means what? An action that is performed in the present, but the word being used is in the past. So take a look at this example. She has lost her keys. In this statement, she had lost her keys and is still not yet found the key, right? So through this sentence, what do we see? We see that her action of losing the key is connected with the past as well. Okay, if you are unable to understand this concept, one thing you can also directly see is that it is she has the subject, she, plus the auxiliary verb has, then the verb in the past participle form, which is lost. So it's again a present perfect tense. Life experiences. If you have life experiences, they have traveled to Japan. Here we also see something that has a relation with the past and the present form. Your experience of the past will not change in the present, right? It will remain the same. So therefore, what has happened? We see a relation of the past to the present. Past experience to the present experience. So therefore, this is a present perfect tense. They have. They is the subject, have is the auxiliary verb, Then traveled is past participle form of the verb. So what will it be again? Present perfect tense. Next, we can move on to the third usage, that is recent actions. I have just eaten lunch. Recent actions, some actions that have been completed but has been completed in the recent past, just now. I have just finished my work. Just is talking about an action that has recently been completed. Next, actions that started in the past and continue till now. So it's very much similar to recent actions and these three. The third and the fourth are very much similar. They talk about the same thing. That means actions that has completed but has happened in the recent past only. So statements like I have just eaten lunch or we have lived here for 10 years are all present perfect tense. When we move on to the next one, that is the last form, we call it the present perfect continuous tense. Please don't let the name intimidate you into what this is. It's very simple. All you have to do is look at the structure. Affirmative sentences have the subject plus has or have, similar to present perfect. Then we have been plus the verb in ing form. So there is a clear addition of the word been to the sentence. And since we have a continuous tense, so therefore the verb will also be in the ing form. Take a look at this example, the first example. He has been working all morning. He is the subject plus has, since he is singular, so therefore the auxiliary verb becomes has, plus the word been and then the verb in ing form. So what will it be? It is a present perfect continuous tense according to the structure, right? If we look at a negative statement structure, what do we have? Subject, has, have, not plus been. So what do we see? They have not been, verb in ing form. Again, because it's continuous tense, so therefore have not been sleeping well. So through these examples, you will see the relation with the structure. And no matter what happens, these structures are very much intact in tenses. They do not change. So if you're confused about what tenses are or how to identify tense, it's very important for you to remember the structure, because the structures are very much present and they will not change, and that is how you're able to identify them without any kind of problems. If you want to look at the usage on how or when do I use a present perfect continuous tense, when you want to talk about actions that started in the past and are still continuing in the present form. Something that has happened in the past but it's still continuing in the present form. And what can I say through these sentences? She has been teaching here since 2010. So it has been what? 15 years, right? So 15 years she started teaching, and her action of teaching has been continuing even till this day. So what is it denoting? Actions that started in the past and it's still continuing. If you're confused about that as well, you can also look at the structure again. She is the subject plus has plus been plus the verb in ing form. So this one denotes a present perfect continuous tense. If you look at the second usage, it is actions that have just stopped but show evidence of the present form. For example, he's tired because he has been running. His action of being tired has a relation of what? Has a relation to his running. Yes or no? So therefore, this shows something. An action that has stopped, but has a relation to something that has continued from the past. So therefore, this one is also understood as present perfect continuous tense. The final one is emphasis on duration. When you want to lay an emphasis on the duration of an action, you can use the present perfect continuous tense. And how do we do that? For example, sentences such as, we have been waiting for hours. This one shows what? Emphasis on the time limit. How many hours have we been waiting for? We have been waiting for hours. So this one shows the present perfect continuous tense. So if you understand all these basic examples and all the basic structures of the tenses, it will be very easy for you to identify the various forms of present tense. I hope that all these lessons have been important and has been quite productive for everyone. For the next class, please join me. Thank you.